3 tailgate. And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. I'm Chip Patterson, coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 tailgate. Thanks for hanging out. Look, this is our last one. You know, don't shed a tear, Tom. Don't shed a tear because it's our last Tuesday night reaction to the new college football playoff rankings. The next time we join you for a show similar to this, it will be Sunday once we have our playoff matchups set. And that more or less will be us getting a chance to give our very first instant reaction to those playoff matchups. So if for some reason you haven't gotten to see it, 1, Georgia, 2, Michigan, 3, Washington, 4, Florida State. Now remember, Ohio State losing to Michigan, they fall out of the top 4. They are down to 6, 1 spot behind the Oregon Ducks. Oregon is your top-ranked one-loss team. Oregon at 5, Ohio State at 6, Texas at 7, Alabama at 8. And before we continue, just run through the rest. Do we agree that's it? That's where we draw the line.
Oh, I'm not counting out the Iowa Hawkeyes. Come on now. If they beat Michigan, how are they not one of the 4 best teams in the country? That's what I want to know.
That's what I would want to know too.
Everybody wants to see Iowa, Georgia in the semifinal.
But all right, so let's say Alabama can make the college football playoff, even being revealed at 8.
Correct.
Okay, cool. 9, Missouri, 10, Penn State, 11, Mississippi, 12, Oklahoma, 13, LSU, 14, Louisville. Louisville tumbling a little bit after that loss. And then you can check out the rest over at cbsports.com. The Iowa Hawkeyes that were just mentioned by Tom Fornelli checking in at number 16. So, hey, Michigan, that's a ranked win if you go and get it. But if you lose it, I don't know. I do not even want to consider what this playoff picture will look like if Michigan loses to Iowa. Because right now, with our 8 teams that are all very much in the mix for this college football playoff, we have more than a handful of scenarios, 6, 7, 8 scenarios that have a conference champion with 0 or 1 loss being left out.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way that this ends very cleanly, right? You know, if Georgia beats Alabama, if Washington beats Oregon, if Florida State beats Louisville, and we go and we see the Michigan Wolverines, as mentioned earlier, take care of business against Iowa, 4-13-0 teams. Boom. Nice and clean. But there are a lot of scenarios that get very, very messy. We can get into those either here or as we continue to lead up to championship week. What stands out here on Tuesday night now that we've got the new set of rankings?
The first thing that really stood out to me, because this was really the biggest thing that I was interested in, was I wanted to see where Ohio State would fall to. And I think that that's about right. Like 6 is kind of where I expected them. I thought there was a chance they could be ahead of Oregon based on their overall resume compared to Oregon's, especially now that Utah is no longer in the top 25. So that takes away one of Oregon's biggest wins. But I think that the committee probably looks at that as a simple case, as the same way they were treating Michigan and Ohio State. One of them is going to knock the other one out, so it doesn't really matter. So I have seen some people react to Ohio State being at 6, saying that they are done. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think they've got a great shot of getting to the top 4, but I think they are very much still in the conversation. The fact that they are still ahead of Texas and Alabama says a bit. Like if Texas beats Oklahoma State, maybe it jumps into the top 4 and it jumps over Ohio State by adding another resume win. But I don't know if we can look at being at, Oklahoma State is that guaranteed type of game to be like, all right, we're going to jump them 4 spots no matter what happens. So I think, a lot of this depends on the ACC championship, because I think that no matter what, Friday night, the winner of Washington, Oregon is in. I think that Michigan, I mean, sure, they could lose to Iowa, whatever. But so I think
no. We look, and it's the last game too. All right.
Yeah.
Like I have just allowed myself the mental freedom to say Michigan is what, a 23.5 point favorite right now?
Last I checked, it was 23.5. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it might have
So
gone up since then.
if they don't win against Iowa, it is down there with the greatest upsets in college football.
It's App State all over again. If
like given the stakes and the moment, the idea that I was going to beat Michigan, and look, shout out to Chris Hassel, shout out to all my Iowa people out there. I seen the wouldn't it be hilarious? Did you see Kirk invoke wouldn't it be hilarious?
No, did he?
He used the word funny, but he's like
cease and desist.
He said he was sitting there and he said, like, yeah, I guess all we can do is, play spoiler to Michigan. Wouldn't it be funny? Oh no, don't spit that into the universe, Kurt. You talk about a career walk-off. That'd be incredible.
Those guys yell at each other a lot this year. I don't know. Like, I feel like Greg McElroy's introduction into the Cruise kind of led to some spiciness. I think everybody else on that show last year was
Kirk
different.
Ferentz.
Oh, I thought you meant Herbie.
Oh, no. Kirk Ferentz at media availability.
Ah, gotcha.
Basically laid it out that all they're doing is doing a wouldn't it be hilarious?
It would be hilarious.
It would be, yes, but we would start from scratch. I have gamed out all of the possibilities for the college football playoff as long as Michigan wins. There's 16 of them. You flip a coin, you know how that math works. Shout out to AP Stat, the reason why I didn't have to take a math in college. You mentioned it. All of the scenarios that would help Oregon, Alabama, Texas, Ohio State, all involve Louisville over Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Get the Seminoles out the paint. Even though they have one loss, we know that they will not be treated the same as these other one-loss teams, given the injury to Jordan Travis.
Yep.
And look, that betting line is under 4. Fair or not, Florida State, you are not getting into the college football playoff with the win. You win, I think you're in.
I think it was at 2.5 last I looked.
But do you agree?
Smaller.
Win and you're in. No questions asked.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, listen, there will be people who, I don't know whether for engagement or just to fill time, will pretend that there's a chance Florida State shouldn't be in the top 4 if they went out. Do not. I mean, I know Danny and Bud aren't here. And if they say it, you could kind of put some, Florida State homerism behind it. I am a renowned Florida State hater. Everybody in our chat is always commenting about how much I hate Florida State. But I am out here telling you right now, pay no attention to anybody who even wants to pretend that an undefeated ACC champion Florida State will not be in the playoff. And when they cry they don't deserve to be there, just tell them to shut up or mute them and move on.
So, for Ohio State, Georgia beats Alabama, gets Alabama out the paint. We don't have to worry about 2 one-loss teams from the SEC. Oklahoma State over Texas, gets Texas out of the paint. And then
I would love if that happened.
Louisville over Florida State. Ohio State Buckeye fans, you are plentiful. You are sitting in a similar position to where you were a year ago. That is what you are rooting for. You want Georgia over Alabama. You want Oklahoma State over Texas. You want Louisville over Florida State. And I think that if you get those 3 results, odds are pretty good.
You're in.
That you might be able to get in. So I think that the Buckeyes are not done at all, even at 6.
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit before the show, and I touched on it now. I'm not even sure that they need Texas to lose. I think if Alabama and Florida State lose, Ohio State still has a decent shot of getting in no matter what happens in the Big 12 championship.
Everything hinges on Alabama and Florida State. What could go wrong? Alabama winning and Florida State winning unlock all of the chaos scenarios. They unlock all of the messiest scenarios. They involve conference champions being left out. They involve 2-time reigning champions going for history being left out.
Mm-hmm. I just don't see that happening. Do you?
What? Alabama?
Do you see any? Like, well, not. I could see Alabama beating Georgia. Unless they get beat by like 40. Do you see them leaving Georgia out? Like a 12-1 Georgia whose only loss was to Alabama at a neutral site. It's won the last 2.
I just said it was messy. So let me get to scenarios 5 through 8. Okay. So if you have 13-0 Michigan, if you have 13-0 Florida State, if you have 12-1 Texas with a head-to-head win against Alabama, and a 12-1 Alabama, I just got to 4. You'd be leaving out 12-1 Georgia.
But can
hold on, you want to parse that?
I was going to go with the funniest possible scenario.
Oh, no, hold on. Let me keep going. If you've got 13-0 Michigan, if you've got 13-0 Washington, if you've got 13-0 Florida State, and if you've got 12-1 Texas with the win over Alabama, both Alabama and Georgia are left out.
That's what I was going to say. That is the funniest possible.
That is the funniest. Yes, it is. It is the most absurd.
That's what I call the Civil War outcome.
Yes. I mean, like, hold on. I've got 2 more that are disgusting. All right. If you've got 13-0 Michigan, 13-0 Florida State, 12-1 Alabama, you are deciding between, wait for it, 12-1 Georgia or 12-1 Oregon for the final spot. What are you going to do there?
They'll go Georgia. They will 100% go Georgia. They will look again. You know what? Tinfoil CFB on hat. Yeah. That's why Utah got taken out of the rankings this week. They want to take that away from Oregon's resume, so that way they can say Georgia, even if they lose to Alabama, they've still got the better overall resume than Oregon.
Again, I have just laid out very possible scenarios that involve both the SEC having 0 teams in and the SEC having 2 teams in, with Oregon being left out. Okay, one more chaos scenario. 13-0 Michigan, 13-0 Washington, 13-0 Florida State, 12-1 Alabama, 12-1 Georgia gets left out. And Georgia fans point to Jordan Travis's injury and say it's unfair, but not in the playoff.
Man, if that happens, they'll probably expand. Oh, wait.
They're already going to do that.
I've talked about it before, but it is funny that now in the final year of the 4-team playoff, we've got the most intrigue heading into conference championship week than we've had in any other season. Whereas if it were a 12-team this year, we'd be debating over, will LSU get in over Oklahoma? Or can Louisville play its way in with a win over Florida State?
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. I think that we will approach, because look, I was posed this question today, and shout out to Chuck Oliver. He has me on. He's a huge Cover 3 podcast fan, and he was saying, are we leaving roses on the grave of conference championship Saturday? Is it never going to be as meaningful as it will be this year? Is it just going to be a seeding issue? And I thought it was a really good point. And I thought about it, and the only intrigue going forward is going to be more for our big air quotes here, Cinderella stories of teams like Oklahoma State, Louisville, ones that are not, going to be in the college football playoff unless they win. And then the other side of it, which would be the same thing we do in March Madness, the bid thief proposition, which is who's so close to the bubble that if an Oklahoma State or a Louisville or an Iowa goes out and wins, they're going to end up losing their at-large bid. So that would, in this case, would be an Ohio State, not Ohio State. I guess it'd be further down. Penn State.
Probably be Missouri or Penn State.
Missouri or Penn State. Yeah. So, yes, it is very interesting that here we have the most interesting conference championship weekend that we've had in the college football playoff era. And yet the whole system's about to change. So, anything else?
No.
Good show.
Yeah, good show. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. No,
hey, I did want to, on the other side, I just, as a preview, everybody, we've got a great audience who's watching live. We appreciate y'all's dedication. I did have planned on the back side of the show just sort of a survey. I don't want to spoil our coaching carousel update for tomorrow, but we have had a lot of action. I don't want to ignore it.
That works.
We're getting together. We're meeting. So, we might as well address it. I know that everybody who's listening or watching has been following some of the same scenarios as well. So, anything else stand out from the latest rankings update?
Tulane's still ahead of Liberty, so it seems pretty clear, especially now that Preston Stone's broken his leg. Like, if Tulane wins the AAC game, they're in. If Liberty beats New Mexico State, they're in. It's just the fact that like UNLV or anybody from the Mountain West is not in there yet kind of makes it pretty clear which direction they're leaning when it comes to that G5 spot.
Yeah. Mountain West hurt itself late in the season.
Mm-hmm. Also, shout out to NC State being ranked 4 spots ahead of Clemson. Who had that to start the year?
Got a head-to-head win.
I know. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying it's like if we go back to like August 15th and I tell you NC State's going to finish the regular season ranked 4 spots ahead of Clemson, what would your reaction have been?
Buddy, take me back to like October
3 weeks
8th.
ago.
Yeah. Until they finish the year with 5 straight wins.
Yeah.
Like your quarterback who took over the starting job and went 3-1, redshirted himself.
Said,
like, this team's dead in the water. Win.
He's not in the portal yet, is he?
MJ?
No.
I mean, he's not a graduate yet.
Ah, okay.
That's the other thing is like everybody who's in the portal right now, the only reason, pay attention to the language here, because anybody who's in the portal at this point has to be a graduate transfer. Anybody who says intends to enter the portal, they don't have that same sort of freedom right now. The portal opens for everyone the Monday after this coming Monday, the Monday after Selection Sunday.
I was going to say there's already more quarterbacks in there than there are teams from the sounds of it. It's like every 5 minutes I see new QBs entered the portal.
Wake had 2 enter today.
So did Minnesota. Indiana's had its leading quarterback, running back, receivers, and all 5 starting offensive linemen join the portal since Tom Allen got fired.
That's a tough sell.
No, it's also, you look at that as, it's like the home's got good bones. I can come in there and I could just kind of put my own stuff in there.
Does the home have good bones?
It's got a stadium and uniforms.
And a Big Ten paycheck. That's coming. Right.
Good bones. I could just bring in anybody I want now.
No, so what is Mark Cuban's connection to Indiana?
Because
that is my what? You went there.
Kelly School of Business. Yep.
Okay, so
it's a good business school.
That is the best possible outcome of him liquidating $3.5 billion of ownership in the Dallas Mavericks is all of a sudden. Why did this happen? Well, because Mark Cuban said Indiana football is being serious. You said on Monday's show that Indiana's decision to pony up $15 million, renegotiating the $20 million into 2 7.5 lump sum payments, that it showed Indiana with its current leadership is serious about football. You know what else would show that it's serious about football? Mark
$3.5 billion.
Mark Cuban saying, "What do you need for the NIL war chest? Oh, it only starts with an M. Oh, interesting. Okay, and I only need like 10 of them, and we can go get like one of the better rosters in the country. Sure.
It's gonna be crazy when Cubes buys the entire All SEC first team, and they're all lining up for Indiana next season."
I love that. Yeah. Jordan hitting us with the we're talking Indiana for some reason. Look, it's a coaching carousel conversation. Coming up on the other side, more of our instant takeaways from some of Tuesday's coaching carousel action. Next.
Time is ticking in the group stage, with first place finishes up for grabs and spots in the knockout stage on the line. Every second is crucial. The UEFA Champions League on CBS Sports Network and streaming live on Paramount+.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast. So, Fran Brown, a Georgia assistant who was the #1 recruiter in the 24/7 Sports recruiting database, has been named officially now the new head coach at Syracuse. He's a Northeast native, and he is a pick for Syracuse that allows Syracuse to basically go the exact opposite way of Dan Mullen. For all of the Dan Mullen speculation that we had, you were going from big, well-known name who's had a lot of head coaching experience, but a not so great recruiting track record, to someone who's a little bit less known, but does have those important relationships. So what was your initial, the turn in the coaching search went pretty quickly. What's your reaction to Fran Brown being named Syracuse's next head coach?
On the record, I think it's a great hire for Syracuse, and I have no idea if it'll work out. Off the record, I think it's the wrong hire.
Mm-hmm.
They lead, like the press release that announced it, mentions that, like what you just brought up, he's the number one recruiter in 24/7 Sports' recruiting rankings. And that is like in the very first sentence. But I'll tell you how important it is to be able to recruit as a head coach. It's one of the most valuable, important things you can do is to get talent. But getting talent to Georgia is a little bit different than convincing talent to come to Syracuse. Like Dino Babers openly complained about how they just didn't have the NIL support. And he had players, he was losing the depth every single year as players were leaving and going to the portal and going places where they were getting, better opportunities financially. It's nothing about Fran Brown. It's just, we've talked about the direction that programs need to go needs to fit who the programs are. Syracuse is not a program that can just rely on trying to recruit guys to come play for Syracuse. Like, you need somebody who can build a program, who can find the 3 stars and then mold them into something, into a winning, you get an identity, you find guys who fit it, you train them, you fit them in, and you go from there and you hope for the best. That's really all you can do. You're not going to, Fran Brown gets a bunch of 5 stars to come to Georgia because it's Georgia. You're not going to be getting 5 and 4 stars to go to Syracuse. You might land a couple, but you're not going to get nearly enough. And that's the other thing. Unless you have the NIL support, you can get them there, but if they work out, you're not going to keep them. So I don't know. It's going to be it's a really tough job. And honestly, it makes me wonder how many coaches said no first. And again, this is nothing about Fran Brown. Fran Brown might go in there and win 10 games a year and make me eat my words. And, I hope they do. Use this clip, dunk on me for eternity if it happens. But it's just, it's the wrong approach to me.
I think the bet. So he's also been at Rutgers. He's also been at Baylor. He's also been, there was one other, he's got this like nice little list of head coaches he's played for. Obviously Kirby Smart being one of them as well, but it's like Kirby Smart, Matt Rule, Greg Schiano, like here's all these comments from these great head coaches who believe in Fran Brown and what he can do. And because he's a Northeast native, he's going to be able to take his relationship building and he's going to try to go and dominate the Northeast. There is a demographics challenge to trying to say dominating the Northeast is going to be good enough to win 10 games in the Atlantic Coast Conference. So maybe it is roster retention. Maybe it is evaluation in the transfer portal. There's a lot of challenges. Syracuse has to be one of those programs. And this is maybe why John Wildhack, the Syracuse athletic director, maybe that's one of the reasons why he goes a little bit young and inexperienced, is because he wants to get somebody who is not turned off by the current atmosphere of having to work the transfer portal in the ways that some coaches.
How could a man who's had to deal with Jim Boeheim ever want to take that kind of direction? Surely he loves dealing with that.
Fran Brown might have a more modern approach to understanding the roster construction process, because Syracuse, to be consistently winning, is going to need that balance. They're going to need great evaluation. They're going to need to find the right players in the portal. They're going to need to retain the ones that they develop that are going to end up getting poached, because when some of Syracuse's best players are ending up on other rosters, you can blame NIL, but there's also something that has to go into that from the beginning, where you're just used to constantly being proactive at making sure that your guys are going to stay invested. Because I know that it can become really cynical, but I do, as naive as I sound, I do believe this is still a relationship business, and roster retention is going to require proactive action that is not just ponying up money. You're going to have to continue to make these players on your roster. You're going to have to communicate with them and help them understand what their plan is going forward. So I think that maybe That would be what I would hope Fran Brown is selling in the interview.
Good luck to him. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's just you'd like to think that just relationships and working will work, but I find NIL will help a lot more.
Well, I am not ignoring it. I'm just saying that you can't just cut the check. Right? I mean,
no, for sure. But I mean, we'll see. My prediction is it won't go great, but I'm sure Fran Brown won't land on his feet just fine.
Okay. Daggum. Do you want to see the coaching carousel video, Tom?
Sure.
I forgot to call for it. Let's see the coaching carousel video. I mean, we have a incredibly talented animation team who spent a lot of time on that. We do need to use it. So
Jordan needs to stop defending Josh Giddey and be on ready for the video to come up. I mean, what's he doing?
No, he hit me up. He said, look, Chip, why didn't you call for it? It was my fault. So Sean Lewis to San Diego State, RIP San Diego State unders.
God, they're dead. Deader and dead. But I love that hire. And I really like it for San Diego State. I really like it for Sean Lewis. Because, like, to be blunt, the pay is different. But I think if I'm Sean Lewis, I'd rather be the head coach at San Diego State than the head coach at Indiana. Because I think he could go into San Diego State and win a lot, which would then give him an open avenue to a better Power 5 job than whereas if you go to Indiana, it's going to be really difficult to win a lot of games, especially considering you now have to replace pretty much your entire roster. And then it could be kind of a dead end gig for you, like if it doesn't work. Whereas I look at San Diego State, I look at the future of the Mountain West, and I think that its location and the talent available to him in that area of the country fits really well with what they're trying to do philosophically on the offensive side of the ball. And I think it will be an attractive location for kids in that area who maybe are getting overlooked by Power 5s or who maybe, just would like to go to San Diego State. So I love it. I think that's going to work great.
My bedtime is screwed.
Yeah, we're going to be up late watching the Aztecs putting up 70 points a game, running 120 plays.
Yeah. You used to be able in the good old days, you could know that when you were hearing the horns on that Mountain West game that kicks off at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, and you've got Colorado State and San Diego State. Yeah, Colorado State might be running a version of the air raid, but as soon as San Diego State gets that ball, they are sitting on that rock. We'd finish the Instant Reaction podcast, and we had cut our Nissan ad, and I could tuck myself in with a nice little weighted blanket. Start feeling good about my college football Saturday. Not anymore. Not after Sean Lewis is going to be the new head coach at San Diego State. What else from the carousel has stood out to you in the last 24 hours or so?
Has there been any other official changes or just rumors? I'm trying to think.
Do you believe that Bobby Petrino as Arkansas offensive coordinator is real or a trial balloon?
Oh, it's real.
Trial balloon, by the way, that's a common phrase, right? I don't have to. Okay.
No, it is. A lot of people are reporting that it's pretty much done.
Okay.
So I think it was very much at first a trial balloon. Like when I think Nicole Auerbach was what had tweeted it, because the original tweet from I think it was Thamel or it was Feldman, one of them said that Arkansas is vetting Bobby Petrino, and it's like, first of all, why the hell would Arkansas need to vet Bobby Petrino? They're pretty familiar with him, everybody is. But Nicole Auerbach tweeted, vetting equals floating, just to see what the reaction is. And I tweeted it, and it's how I feel. Sam Pittman is hiring his replacement. It's a tough scene because that is exactly what is going to happen. If Arkansas gets off to a slow start next year, Pittman will be axed. Bobby Petrino will become the interim, and then there's a very good chance that Bobby Petrino just becomes the full-time head coach.
Amazing.
But it could work too. That's the other thing. Like, that is the other side. We saw Bobby went to A&M. The offense changed a little. You're going to have a really hard time convincing me that Jimbo still wasn't overriding mostly everything and doing things that he wanted to do. So Bobby, like Sam will let Bobby do what Bobby does. And say whatever the hell you want about Bobby Petrino. There's very little question that wherever he's gone, the offense has been just fine. They will move the ball. They will score points. And that is something that Arkansas needs, because that's really what was kind of like the Dan Enos hire was just a miserable failure for him. And, we kind of knew that from the start. Petrino is a clear upgrade over Dan Enos. And I do think that, Arkansas's offense will be good next year. And I also think this is important in that, because there has been speculation that like KJ Jefferson could hit the portal, Rocket Sanders could hit the portal. Bobby Portis, and we saw like we speculated like the Mississippi State 7-3 loss. We've speculated that was pretty much like a team revolt against the offensive coordinator to get Enos fired. It's possible bringing in Petrino helps you keep KJ and Rocket, because you've seen what his offenses can do. And if they're trying to, I think Rocket could go anywhere and be fine. But if you're KJ and you're still trying to get to the NFL, Bobby Petrino has an offense that could do that. It could make you look a lot better than you looked in the version of the offense that the Hogs were running this year.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm telling you, that's my prediction. It'll work. And then Bobby Petrino will replace Sam Pittman.
Maybe for 3 games. Maybe for 5 games. I don't think. How about this? I do not think that Bobby Petrino is the head coach for the start of the 2025 season.
Okay. Is he AD or? I just think, just for laughs, when Bobby's introduced, he should show up to the press conference on a motorcycle.
On a motorcycle, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So with that.
Also, wear the brace. Just do it. Like, confront it. Get it out of the way.
Oh, no, I think you can do it subtly. It's the Sugar Bowl hat. Forget the brace. Just wear the Sugar Bowl hat. Because him wearing the Sugar Bowl hat with the brace was his own subtle way of reminding you of the good times. Reminding you
to
of
the Sugar Bowl. Don't forget.
Took you to the Sugar Bowl. Don't forget.
Remember Darren McFadden?
Your boy Bobby brought you to the Sugar Bowl. And so as he's sitting there all red-faced, neck braced up, he chose the Sugar Bowl hat, which looks like it had not been worn before that day.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah,
it's in the trophy ceremony. It did not have a lot of creases in it.
That thing was sitting like on a shelf in his office. Like he'd gotten it and he just put it there as like a decoration. But that day he's like, I'm gonna put this on.
Yeah.
It really brings out the color in my neck brace.
I mean, that man had such resolve that he was like, don't call the ambulance. I got to clean this thing up first. Do you understand that kind of stick-to-itiveness? We don't have enough of that in America these days.
No, we don't have. This is a codependent nation. I am happy that we have an independent man like Bobby Petrino who doesn't need any help taking care of something. He's there for himself. He can get it done.
He's fending for himself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, again, the reports as we speak to you here live on Tuesday night is that he is finalizing a deal to return to Arkansas as offensive coordinator for Sam Pittman. Fran Brown tabbed to be the next head coach at Syracuse. That is official. The Sean Lewis to San Diego State, still a report, lots to get to in terms of the coaching carousel, and we will be doing some of that before we get into big game breakdown, breaking down some of these consequential matchups that we have. So Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, come hang out. We'll be going inside the matchup of the SEC championship game, the Pac-12 championship game, the ACC championship game, the Big 12 championship game, what Iowa might be able to do against Michigan.
Might get a field goal. You never know.
Hey, 3-0 win for the Hawkeyes. So you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fridelli. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Come join us Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you.